The reason I think that the timing of this episode is crucial is because when you get to the end of the year, it's like this duality of trying to make sure that you have a plan for the year ahead when it comes to taxes and having that proactive plan that you're looking forward to using and informing your financial decisions, but also trying to make sure that with the last month and a half or so that we have, that you take advantage of any last minute opportunities that you can to reduce the taxes that you may owe, if that's the goal, or at least to optimize your finances with taxes in mind. And with that in mind, we're going to share some tips that we hope will allow you to do just that. And we're going to start with, instead of a tip, identifying to me what is the most consistent reason that people end up with unexpected tax bills when you're going into the tax season, and that is under withholding. Now, withholding is literally what it sounds like. When you fill out a W-4 for your employer, they ask you all types of information about the makeup of your household. Are you single? Are you married? Do you file married filing separately, married filing jointly? How many children do you have? How many dependents? So you can set your allowances. And based on that information, they estimate how much they think you'll owe in taxes, and they withhold that amount from your paycheck throughout the year. Now, when I look, especially for high income earners, and they get an unexpected tax bill and they're upset with their tax preparer, it often comes back to under withholding. And when you look through how they filled out their W 4 as compared to the structure of their income, it makes a lot of sense. For example, just last week, we had a meeting with a very, very high income earner who was earning well into the levels that would have the highest portion of their income taxed at either 35 or 37%. But this person also had several children, several allowances. They were married, so they filed married filing jointly. So when they filled out that W-4, it makes it look like they shouldn't be paying that much in taxes. They have all of these factors that would reduce the amount that they pay on the income that they earn. And if you looked at what was actually being withheld from their paycheck, it was around 20% or so. So if you're thinking about it, if they're having huge portions of their income taxed at 24, 32, 35, 37%, but they have about 20% being withheld from each dollar of their check, that alone, just from their regular salary, was going to lead to significant under withholding and a significant tax bill that they may be unaware of. But let's assume that the highest portion of your income is taxed at the 24, 32, 35, 37% brackets, and you somehow had the wherewithal to fill out your withholding appropriately, and they're withholding the proper percentages on your day-to-day salary or hourly rate. Well, that doesn't take into consideration what you receive in bonus pay, because in most cases, the standard withholding for bonuses is 22%. So even if a W-4 is filled out correctly and you have higher portions withheld from your paycheck, if your tax rate is higher than 22%, but you have a bonus that's withholding 22%, you could still be in trouble. The same is true if you have equity compensation like restricted stock, where the shares that you are granted, even if you're not receiving them in cash, are taxed to you as income based on the value of the stock when it vests. As an example, let's say that you have 1,000 shares of restricted stock in your company that vests in the last quarter of this year. And on the date that it vests, the share of that stock is worth $50 per share. Well, that means that even though you didn't receive that income in cash from a tax perspective, it looks like you earned $50,000. And at a standard withholding of 22%, the withholding on that bonus would be $11,000. So you may sell enough shares to cover the estimated $11,000 at 22%. But if the highest portion of your income is taxed at 32%, you should have withheld $16,000. And just that one quarters of vesting could lead to an underpayment of $5,000 in taxes and an unexpected tax bill. Now, you may be asking the question when you hear all this, well, how do I know if I've had under withholding? How do I fix this? One of the quickest ways that I found is to look at your most recent pay stub. And in that pay stub, it's going to show you your pay before taxes, and it's going to show you your pay after taxes, and it will show you the amount of federal, state, and local taxes that were withheld from that paycheck. For bonuses, you can look at the pay stub from that bonus, or you can reach out to your finance or HR department and ask them the rate of withholding that you currently have set on your bonuses. And if you have restricted stock and equity compensation, either between your employer or the custodian that holds those shares of restricted stock, you should be able to ask them your current elections on how much is being withheld to cover those estimated taxes. And if by the end of the year you need to catch up, You can correct those withholdings by asking more to be taken out of your paycheck before the year end. And even moving forward, we often find that for really high income earners, they need a tax preparer to walk them through how they should fill out their W-4. Because even if you're married, filing jointly, and have a bunch of kids, based on your income, it may be more appropriate moving forward to possibly change your marital status on your W-4 to single and to possibly reduce your allowances even though you have more children than you're claiming, which doesn't mean you have less children. It doesn't mean that you're currently not married in the eyes of the IRS. It's just filling out your W-4 so that when they're estimating how much should be withheld, you're increasing the amount that they use when they're looking at your paycheck.